This looks just like a movie. The pavement's different, the roads are wide. I'm going to take you guys to the end there because, bro, at the end of the road, there is a crazy big house in the corner. I need you guys to see this.
Now, I am British and I am currently in an American neighborhood.
Okay, this is the America they don't show you on the media.
I've just come across the most American neighborhood. Check this out.
From a tree-lined street in Boston to white picket-fenced houses in Georgia, the reaction is almost always the same. Europeans look around, lower their voices, and say they feel like they've stepped into a movie. But the strangest thing is not how much those neighborhoods resemble Hollywood, but rather that Americans pass by them every day and hardly even notice. The mailbox by the road, the basketball pole in front of the garage, the yellow bus drives past the row of autumn trees. A stranger waves from behind the wheel. For Americans, it was just an ordinary afternoon. For foreigners, it's a scene from a movie they've been watching since childhood. So why can an ordinary neighborhood move people so deeply? In this video, we will step into the streets that make Europeans doubt their own eyes and discover why what keeps them there is not necessarily the houses.
This house looks like Rapunzel's house. I'm obsessed with it, with the little garden. Oh my God.
I do not believe it. It's the house from Back to the Future. Check it out.
Something very strange happens when Europeans first step into an American neighborhood. They didn't just see a wide road, a beautiful house, or a neatly trimmed lawn. They see something so familiar that it almost seems absurd. Familiar, even though they had never lived there. Familiar, even if it was their first time standing in front of the mailbox at the end of the driveway, their first time seeing the yellow school bus drive past the trees, or their first time seeing a rocking chair placed on the porch, as if waiting for someone to bring out coffee and sit. And the usual reaction is, wait a minute, is this place really real? It sounds a bit funny, but that feeling is completely real.
This has got to be one of the most American-looking neighborhoods I have ever seen. When I was younger and I pictured America in my head, this is exactly what I saw. Huge open roads, beautiful houses, so much space. I would have loved to have grown up somewhere like this, because I don't know if you know, but in the UK, a lot of the neighborhoods are very cramped. The houses are right next to each other. The roads are small. And more often than not, there is no parking. I don't think you'll have any issues parking here at all. Americans, is this a normal neighborhood in America, or have we just stumbled across a really spectacular one?
For decades, Hollywood has not only told stories about America, Hollywood has also quietly created a visual vocabulary. White picket fences, open garages, children shooting hoops in front yards, newspapers lying on driveways, fathers grilling in backyards, Christmas lights running along rooftops. Visitors from England, France, or Germany may not know whether that house is in Ohio, Georgia, or Pennsylvania. They just need to look for a second to recognize, that's America. And in a very strange way, those images have become part of their childhood.
Oh my God, can you make a picture of me?
Why? Wait.
Because of
What?
it's a yellow school bus, like from the American movies.
Okay.
You know who's taken it? Miley Cyrus and Hannah Montana.
Oh.
All people from High School Musical, I'm sure. And all Americans.
Yeah.
You will never believe what I saw. Yes. Like yellow. Yes, High School Musical, right?
You see how surprised she was? Europeans have never missed the yellow bus, never had a basketball fly into the garage door, never had to rake leaves in November, and then wonder why, the next morning, the leaves were still falling as before. But somehow, everything still feels familiar. It is something that can be called a borrowed nostalgia, remembering a place one has never lived in because the screen has allowed one to visit that place thousands of times. For many older people, this feeling is even deeper. It was the era when American movies, music, and television spread across the world, bringing not only stars but also kitchens, lawns, schools, and summer evenings of an ordinary family. A local lifestyle gradually becomes a global memory. Therefore, when a European tourist stands in the American neighborhood and says they feel like they are in a movie, they are not necessarily praising the house. They are recognizing a part of their own memory existing in the lives of others. And if you've ever looked at a familiar neighborhood and suddenly wondered what outsiders would find special about it, hit like and subscribe to the channel. Because the deeper you go, this story is not just about Hollywood or nostalgia. Recognizing an image is one thing. Understanding why those wide streets, detached houses, and large yards can exist in real life is another matter. Because these neighborhoods were not only created by cinema, they were also created by land, highways, the way America developed after the war, and a very American belief that every family should have their own space.
Tell me that doesn't look American. To an English person, that is so cool.
If you're an American, you can probably not relate, but all this, for European, feels like we're right inside of a movie.
Have you noticed this? There is a detail that appears repeatedly in almost every European reaction video. They were driving slowly through a suburban area, continuously asking, "The people living here must be very rich, right?" Then the camera panned over a house with a large front yard, a 2-car garage, a long driveway, a few large oak trees, and a lush green lawn. Just a few seconds later, the comments section below was filled with questions like, "Is that a millionaire's neighborhood?" Or, "I can't believe this is just an ordinary residential area."
These neighborhoods look exactly the same as every movie you've ever seen. The American flags, people have got race flags up. This old couple just walked past me and they go, "Good morning." I was like, "What the hell? You guys talk to each other here?"
Interestingly, in many cases, it is actually just a middle-class neighborhood. So what makes people easily confused like that? The answer does not lie in the house, but lies in the space around the house.
The pumpkins that...
This is the garden. It looks like a parking lot. This is the Italian garden. And this is South Africa. This is the Korean garden. Whole beautiful Riyadh.
The water, it's like a swamp.
Oh yeah, that's just irrigation.
Irrigation for what?
For the trees.
Look at this. Look at this. Check this out. Look at this. How does the tree need that much water? It's not even by the tree.
I've just found the most American neighborhood here in California. Check this house out. Wow. Look at this house. I mean, this guy looks like a typical American enjoying his day.
You see, it's just a yard, but its area is comparable to a house in Europe. There is one unit located in the middle of a row of closely spaced houses, with just enough space in front for a motorcycle or a few flower pots. The other unit is set further back, with a wide front yard, lawns on both sides, and a backyard and garage at the rear. Just the layout alone makes the brain default to thinking that the second unit is more expensive, even when we don't yet know its true value. That's why many European tourists are continuously deceived by the sense of space. One Englishman humorously recounted that when he saw a row of townhomes with garages, balconies, and private driveways, he thought he was standing in front of a huge mansion. When he realized that it was just a row of terraced houses, he burst out laughing because he realized he had just been deceived by an optical illusion. For many people from London, Paris, or Madrid, elements such as wide streets, detached houses, ancient trees in front yards, 2-car garages, and large setbacks from the road have long been associated with the image of affluence. So, when all those details appear together in a regular neighborhood in America, the first reaction is almost always, this place must be for the upper class. But that's also when we need to distinguish between scale and value.
As someone who grew up in Europe, especially in Germany, there's something so cool about American suburbs, and I don't think Americans are realizing that. For me, this really feels like I'm walking through a movie set. And I know that doesn't make sense for a lot of people who grew up here, but I get so excited every time I see a yellow school bus, or like these long drives away with the basketball hubs, or even like these random sidewalks as I'm walking here right now. So please tell me I'm not the only one.
A house that looks big is not necessarily a luxurious house. A neighborhood with a lot of space does not necessarily mean that all its residents are wealthy. And conversely, a modestly sized apartment in the center of a large city can be worth much more than a spacious house in the suburbs. This is not a comparison of which place is better, but rather the difference in how countries develop urban areas. Many European cities were formed hundreds of years ago when people primarily walked or rode horses. Houses, shops, squares, and churches are all located close together so that everything can be reached within a few minutes' walk. The streets are therefore smaller, denser, and make use of every square meter of land. Meanwhile, many American suburbs expanded significantly as cars became the primary mode of transportation. The roads are designed wider, the residential areas are more spread out, and each family has more private space. Those are two different planning stories written in two different eras. There is a very nice saying to describe this contrast. Europe is built around footsteps. Many American suburbs are built around the steering wheel. That's why Europeans see the spaciousness and think of wealth. Many Americans see it as so familiar that they no longer pay attention.
How's it going, America? So this morning I thought I might come and show you something interesting that you might like to see. So in America, the houses are absolutely massive. I mean, really big. And let's say, for instance, you look at somewhere like Texas. For a few $100,000, you can probably get yourself a 3-4 bedroom house, garage, a double garage, a swimming pool, and a driveway.
Of course, a spacious area also brings a lot of pleasant things. Children have a yard to run around in. Families can have barbecues on weekends. The neighbors don't live right next door, so it's quieter. But in return, there is a greater distance, more tasks that depend on a car, and taking care of a large house is not simple at all. Some people have joked that in some areas of Texas, a 2-car garage is not a symbol of wealth. It's simply a place to store 2 cars, a lawnmower, a few boxes of old stuff, and items that the homeowner still hopes to use again someday. That is the interesting thing about these reaction videos. They make us realize that sometimes the feeling of luxury is not created by gold, silver, or marble, but simply by the distance from the sidewalk to the main door. If by now you also start looking at familiar neighborhoods in a different way, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on interesting perspectives like this. Because in the next part, we will leave behind the large things like houses and roads to explore the very small details that Americans almost no longer pay attention to. A mailbox, a fire hydrant, a chair on the porch. It is precisely those ordinary things that make many Europeans believe they have just stepped into a movie.
I'm a Brit living in America, so I'm going to show you some of my favourite things in my American neighbourhood compared to my UK one. This, no horn blowing, $50 to $100 fine. Never seen that before in the UK. I should say we live in Hoboken, which is in New Jersey, opposite New York. So it's different every town, you know, but this is my favourite things about our town. So people just leave things on like their doorstep for you to come and take, which I think is really cute. In the UK, we don't really leave stuff outside. We just normally take it to the charity shop. So it's quite cute that you guys, you know, support each other. Another one of just stuff left outside to take. You guys are going to think I'm weird, but we don't have this in the UK, like these little pull fins. That's very American to me. So obviously we do have mailboxes, but I can't tell you how many times I thought this is a trash can when it's not. Your mailboxes, that does confuse me.
There's a very interesting rule. The more you watch reaction videos of Europeans, the more you realize they rarely stand in awe before gigantic mansions. What excites them is often tiny little things. A mailbox, a yellow bus, a stop sign, or simply a chair placed on the porch. The things that Americans pass by every day without a second glance make a tourist stop in their tracks for a few seconds just to say, wait a minute, is this really true? And that's the interesting part, because a culture is often not recognized through the tallest buildings. It is recognized through the smallest things that are repeated in daily life. First is the mailbox at the end of the driveway. It doesn't sound like anything special, does it? But for many English, French, or Germans, the mailbox, standing alone by the roadside, is almost like a Hollywood prop. They grew up with scenes of the postman dropping off newspapers and letters, then the truck slowly moving on to the next house. They used to think it was just the director's way of making the scene more beautiful. When they saw it with their own eyes, the reaction was often very funny.
In America, y'all are way too confident with your mailbox. Les boîtes aux lettres. Let me show you here in America. In America, the mailbox looks like that. And you have this little flag. Why do you have a flag? I don't understand. Like, it's not possible in Europe to have that, especially in France. We would steal your stuff, okay? And here in America, y'all are way too confident about this kind of things. In France, everything is locked.
For Americans, the mailbox mainly contains bills, junk mail, and sometimes a few Christmas cards. But for many tourists, it feels like a confirmation that Hollywood hasn't completely fabricated America. But before I could finish being surprised, a yellow school bus appeared. And almost every time, the camera immediately follows. Most European guests exclaim the same thing. I thought it was only in the movies.
It's just like the movies. A big yellow bus.
Why is this smoke coming from the event?
Actually, what fascinates them is not because the car is more beautiful than the buses in Europe, but because it is a symbol of an entire cinematic childhood. For decades, countless school movies have begun with the scene of a yellow bus stopping in front of a suburban house. It doesn't just carry students to school. It also carries the image of American childhood around the world. Then, the camera pans over to the basketball hoop in front of the garage. This is also a very funny detail. An Englishman, laughing, asked, "Does every house here have its own football field?" Actually, it's not a football field. It's just a basketball hoop attached to the garage. But in their eyes, it is a symbol of hundreds of teen movies. Just add 3 boys riding their bikes, a dog running behind, and someone shouting, "Mom, I'm home!" And the scene instantly transforms into a familiar coming-of-age movie. And just when the viewers start to think, yeah, it all looks like a movie, then the camera stops in front of a chair on the porch. Is anyone really sitting there? That is the question many Europeans are asking. In many places in Europe, the backyard is often where the whole family relaxes. The front porch in many American neighborhoods was once designed as a transitional space between the home and the community. You can sit reading the newspaper, drinking coffee, watching children play, or simply nodding to neighbors passing by. Of course, some joke that nowadays that chair serves flower pots and Halloween decorations more than the homeowner. But its very presence still tells a story about how people once envisioned neighborhood life. Then came the American flag. What surprises many tourists is not the presence of the flags, but because the flags appear every place, on the porch, on the lamppost, next to the mailbox, even right in front of the garage. In many European countries, the national flag often appears more frequently on holidays or major events. Meanwhile, in many residential areas in the United States, the flag has become a familiar part of the scenery, just like rows of trees or lawns. For each family, it can carry different meanings, tradition, community, military service memories, or simply just a habit. And then the montage continues to run quickly. Look, the stop sign, red fire hydrant. The newspaper is lying on the driveway. A pickup truck is parked in front of the garage. Each detail appears for just a few seconds. But when pieced together, they form what people call America in memory. If you've ever watched American movies and found yourself smiling at these images in real life, please give a like and subscribe to support the channel. Because sometimes, the most interesting stories start from such small details that even the people involved no longer pay attention to them. But just when Europeans thought they had figured out the formula for the American neighborhood, big houses, yellow school buses, American flags, and perfect lawns, America unexpectedly changed the scene. Because not every neighborhood in America is the same. And in the next part, we will explore an even more interesting fact. America does not have a typical neighborhood. There are many different Americas coexisting on one map. At this point, many Europeans began to think they had discovered the formula for an American neighborhood. Big houses, wide roads, green lawns, yellow school buses. It seems like every place is the same. But then America suddenly changed the backdrop. And it was that very moment that made many people realize that Hollywood only tells a very small part of the story. If you only watch movies, you might easily think that suburbia is the only face of America. But just a few hours' drive, or even just crossing into another state, the scenery changes completely. It feels like just switching to a new movie, with a new setting, new colors, and a new pace of life. Okay, and the first stop is the southern United States. You see the wide roads, the rows of ancient oak trees casting cool shadows, the strands of Spanish moss swaying in the wind, and the bungalows lying low, stretching out instead of reaching high. That is a very interesting reaction. People often think architecture is just for beauty, but in the southern United States, many details were born out of the climate. The porches are deeper to avoid the sun, higher ceilings for better air circulation on hot summer days, long before air conditioning became popular. Behind that beauty is a way of adapting to nature, not just a design style. And now it's Boston. No more long, winding roads. Instead, there are 2-story wooden houses nestled under the canopy of changing maple leaves. The morning newspaper lay neatly on the driveway. A small baseball field appeared right next to the residential area. A tourist burst out laughing, "Every house here looks like a Christmas postcard." Indeed, if the South exudes a sense of openness, Boston has a more subdued, classic charm. It's still America, but this is a version with a longer history, denser population, and many streets that make European tourists feel more at home with what they are familiar with. And just when you think, it turns out America has old neighborhoods like this too, then another scene appears. And this time, it was a community with small, colorful cottages, sloping roofs, wooden windows, and decorative details that looked like they had stepped out of a fairy tale. A female tourist stood still for a few seconds and then said, "I can't believe there are real people living here." Some people compare this place to Rapunzel's house. Others say it's like stepping into Alice's world in Wonderland. It sounds a bit exaggerated, but it's understandable. Because when we are used to seeing America through the lens of modern suburbia, such historical communities create a completely different feeling, soft and full of storytelling essence. That is also when another prejudice quietly disappears. There is no single type of American neighborhood. There are many Americas side by side, and each place tells its own story. But the journey hasn't stopped yet. The camera continues to take us to neighborhoods like Georgetown in Washington or Beacon Hill in Boston. Cobblestone streets. The rows of brick houses are closely packed together. The coffee shop is right at the corner of the street. There are more pedestrians than cars. If you don't pay attention to the American flags or traffic signs, at times you might think you're in a European city. That is what delights many tourists. They come to America to find suburbs like in the movies, but then discover that America also has very different, very old, very European-like corners that are charming in their own unique way. Of course, we shouldn't idealize everything. The reaction videos online often choose the most beautiful, quietest neighborhoods or those with the most outstanding architecture. Not every residential area is like that, just as not every historical district is spacious or suitable for every family. It is the diversity that is worth mentioning, and perhaps that is the biggest surprise. America does not have a typical neighborhood. It has thousands of different ways to tell the same dream of home, community, and life. Whether the house is built of wood or brick, nestled under rows of fiery red maples or moss-covered oaks, the strongest reaction from Europeans does not happen outside the yard. It begins when they step through the door and see inside. Stepping through the door, many European tourists had to stop filming once again. Not because the house is too luxurious, but because they feel. This house just keeps getting bigger. Go through the living room, then to the kitchen. Through the kitchen is the pantry. Then comes the laundry room. The garage connects directly to the house. Take a few more steps, and there is another space. A female tourist, walking and laughing, said, "Wait a minute. Is there still more room?" That's when we realize something interesting. In many American suburbs, spaciousness is not only reflected in the area, it is also transformed into a way of organizing life. For example, a pantry. If you've never seen one, a pantry is simply a private space for storing food. Sounds normal. But for many European tourists, dedicating a small room or a large cupboard just for storing food is a true cultural shock. One person opened the pantry door and burst out laughing. "Does this house even have a mini supermarket?" Actually, that's quite understandable. In many suburbs, supermarkets can be just a few minutes' drive from home. When they go shopping, people usually buy a lot for the whole week, or even longer. Therefore, the pantry is not merely a convenience, it reflects a lifestyle built around car trips and pre-preparation habits. Then there's the refrigerator. What made many people react was not just the size, but the ice maker integrated right on the door. A tourist pressed the button to get ice while laughing. After years of struggling with ice trays in the freezer, this is truly the technology of the future. It sounds very funny, but it also reveals a small aspect of the culture. In many places in the US, especially in states with hot summers, cold water and ice are almost a familiar part of daily life. A very small detail, but enough for first-time experiencers to remember forever. Leaving the kitchen, the camera moves into the private laundry room. An Englishman was quite surprised because the house not only had a washing machine, but also a dedicated area for washing, drying, and storing clothes. Meanwhile, in many households in England, washing machines are often placed right under the kitchen counter. It's not that one way is better than the other, it's just that when the area changes, the way people organize their lives also changes accordingly. And then there's one detail that makes quite a few people chuckle. Central air conditioning. The cold air doesn't blow from a machine mounted on the wall, but gently passes through the vents on the floor or ceiling. Adding to that, the storm doors with hidden insect screens make many visitors feel that even very ordinary things are designed in a way completely different from what they are used to. Overall, you will see that in an American suburban house, the space is not only larger, it is divided into very distinct functions: a food storage area, a laundry area, a parking area, a play area, and a resting area. Each space serves its own rhythm of life. But it is also at this moment that the picture begins to add another hue. A bigger house means more rooms. More rooms mean more things to clean, more appliances to maintain, and potentially higher energy bills. Amenities always bring comfort, but they rarely come at no cost. And now, we will talk about a very thought-provoking paradox. Everything that makes the American suburbs attractive is also what makes many visitors feel. This place is as beautiful as a movie, but sometimes it is strangely quiet. At this point, many viewers start to have the same thought. If the American neighborhood is so beautiful, so spacious, and so convenient, then what else is there to criticize? And perhaps this is when the story becomes the most interesting. Because right in the middle of the green lawns, the clean streets, and the houses that look just like in the movies, quite a few tourists unexpectedly say something very similar. Why is there no one on the street? In many American suburbs, life takes place behind closed doors more than on the sidewalks. Children can play in the backyard. The family gathers on the porch or in the garden. The adults drive home from work, open the garage door, and walk straight into the house. Everything is still very lively. It's just that most of it happens within private spaces. So, if you only look from the street, sometimes you might feel like the movie has been set up, the backdrop is perfect, but the actors haven't appeared yet. That's quite an interesting paradox. The more private space there is, sometimes the less shared activities appear before our eyes. But that doesn't mean the place lacks vitality. For many families, it is precisely that tranquility that they seek. Less traffic noise, less noisy. Children have a yard to run around in. On weekends, you can grill meat in the backyard without having to squeeze in. That's the kind of peace that many people love. On the other hand, for someone used to walking to the cafe, the train station, or the store in just a few minutes, that feeling can sometimes be a bit empty. Not because the neighborhood isn't beautiful, but because everything is farther apart and the car has almost become the default companion. There is a pretty good saying: wide roads are a symbol of freedom as long as you have the car keys. Some tourists even pay attention to the community regulations in certain neighborhoods. The lawns need to be well maintained, the trees trimmed neatly, and the overall color scheme kept quite uniform. That is what creates a very cinematic feeling. Everything is clean, neat, and harmonious. But along with that beauty comes the responsibility of maintaining the shared space so that the entire neighborhood remains visually appealing. Suburbia always carries two very interesting sides. It gives people a lot of space to live. But sometimes it also makes people have to be more proactive if they want to meet. And this is also the moment when the video begins to shift to another emotional level. From the beginning until now, we have talked a lot about houses, roads, mailboxes, and lawns. But if you ask what many tourists remember the most after the trip, the answer does not lie in any of the structures. Perhaps the most interesting thing after all these reaction videos is not that Europeans are discovering real American neighborhoods, but rather that they remind us that the most ordinary things can sometimes be the most special. Perhaps Hollywood never created the American dream. Hollywood only tells it in a way that makes the whole world want to see it with their own eyes at least once. And when they finally set foot here, many people realize that America is not as perfect as in the movies, but also not as simple as the prejudices they had heard. It is larger, more diverse, more contradictory, and also has more things to explore. Who knows? What makes a neighborhood memorable might not lie in how big the houses are, how wide the roads are, or how green the lawns are. But it's the feeling that, amidst an increasingly hurried world, there are still places that make people willing to smile, wave, and make a stranger feel welcome. Now, I really want to hear your opinions. If you have ever been to the US, what surprised you the most about the neighborhoods here? And if you haven't been there, which image in today's video made you think, I thought it only existed in movies? Please share your experiences or thoughts in the comments section. I will read and respond to as many comments as possible in this video. If you love perspectives like this, where we not only watch reactions, but also decode the culture, history, and everyday stories behind America together, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos. Thank you for taking the time to join us. See you in the next video. The video is created for the purpose of sharing, analyzing, and commenting on cultural experiences and perspectives recorded from various public sources and the reactions of international tourists. The content reflects personal experiences and viewpoints at specific locations, not representing the entire United States or all communities. Each neighborhood, each city, and each state has its own unique characteristics, so the audience should view this as a reference perspective to better understand the diversity of American life and culture.